Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network. Great to be with you. I know it's been a couple days since we've had some podcasts. I had an opportunity to get away with my family and spend some time in Israel and in Palestine, and I appreciate it. It was a fantastic time to be with my precious family. And so I want you to know I genuinely missed you guys. Had a chance to connect with some Raiders who live in Israel, and so it was great to be able to talk to some of them. And I had several of them. Actually, there's a lot of Raider fans in Israel, and in Palestine, and so we talked about it and with a couple of them and said, "Man, if we'd have known you were coming, we would have done a meetup in Israel." So maybe we'll do that next time. But it was great to be there, and I appreciate all you guys. I know it's been a couple days since we've had a podcast, but we'll be back on our daily regiment going forward now through the end of the season. But I wanted to take a couple of minutes today for our weekly question and answer article and address a couple things and answer some questions. And the first one comes to us, and let me grab it right here if you don't mind. But the first one comes to us from Reggie. Reggie says, Hondo, do you have any comments about Derek Carr's recent comments about he knew it was over when the fans made his wife cry? I'd like to hear your point. To me, this made me embarrassed to be a Raider fan, and I took it very hard. What are your thoughts, Reggie? Now, I want to say a couple things to all of you, and our numbers, our podcast numbers, are through the roof. Thank you guys very, very much for watching our videos and all of it, and I greatly appreciate you. But I want to address this for a second because I cover the Raiders. That's what I do. And I keep saying to people, I'm not really going to talk about Derek anymore. He's not the Raiders quarterback. And then Derek will say something and I'll get a deluge of email asking me to talk about it. So I don't want to be a liar because I told you I was done talking about it. But then when he says things that have to do with the Raiders and you people ask me to comment, that's my job. I work for you guys. So let me just first off say this. In the interest of fair disclosure, um, and his family has publicly said that they appreciated that I was fair to Derek, and I believe I was. And Derek is my friend. Um, I believe if you were to ask Derek, is Hondo Carpenter a friend of yours? He'd say yes. I respect Derek. I genuinely like Derek. I appreciate him. I think he's a fine human being. And but I'm also not afraid to have been critical. Many of you read the article that I did on the divorce between the teams, the team and Derek, and what went down. I'm not afraid of being critical. I've said this before multiple times. My job is to tell the truth, and I don't look at who's going to be mad, who's going to be glad. I don't look at any of that. My job is if I want to cover this team and be respectful of Raider Nation, who are ultimately my bosses, then I owe it to them to give them the very best information and allow them to make up their mind. Raider Nation doesn't need Hondo Carpenter to tell them this should be your opinion. You guys are not stupid, and I despise the arrogancy of the media, and not just in sports. It's in politics. It's in business. It literally makes consuming media difficult just because of the arrogance in my field of choice. That being said, I understand that Derek's wife and family love Derek. They love him. They appreciate him. And they're grateful for him. And he's a wonderful son, a dad, a father, a brother, an uncle. I mean, all of that's true. Derek's a top-notch human being. Take away him being a multimillionaire. Take away Derek being an NFL quarterback. Derek Carr, if he's a librarian, but the same character and everything about him that he is today, I would be thrilled as a father for my daughter to marry someone exactly like Derek Carr. So this isn't any of that. But this is about football. And I know that fans fail sometimes to expect that these people are human. And I also know that it's a minuscule amount of fans that are the over the top, brutal keyboard warriors. I get people every week who will say to me, Hondo, how come you didn't put Hondo hate? My wife last week on our weekly question and answer article, Hondo, how come there was no Hondo hate? I love it. Well, first of all, she probably likes it because everybody tells her how pretty she is. But you don't get as much. I mean, I put those at the front because you don't get as much, but I want people to see not everybody loves me. But at some point, and I understand he was talking to the Fresno Bee and all that. At some point, though, I just think it's in Derek's best interest. All right, let's not talking about the Raiders anymore. I'm just going to move on because there would be a lot of people who would say, you know what? You told us you didn't give us and last time you talked that you didn't give us your best. And now you want to talk about your wife being crying and that's why you were ready to go. What about you didn't give us our best and still made millions and millions of dollars? Here's the point. Derek is genuine. And so if people talk to him, he's going to tell them stuff. I'm debating whether or not to tell you a certain story. I'll just say this with no details. I remember one time um, cautioning Derek on a particular subject. And I'm going to leave it right there. And I did it because I genuinely like him and I consider him a friend. And Derek didn't need Hondo's advice. I'm not saying he did, but there was a particular situation and I just gave him a little bit of advice. Just be careful. And I did that because I care about him. I did that because I respect him. I did it because I like him. And I think that there are times when you can think things, but it doesn't mean you got to say them. And it doesn't make you disingenuous if you don't say them. And if I was his agent and I was advising him, I would just say, Derek, listen, I know you love the Raiders. And he does, folks. I don't care what you say. If you don't know him, I'm your opinion isn't as valuable to me because I do. I know he loves the Raiders. And so, but Derek, you're a saint now. Talk about the Raiders. I have a friend who covers the Saints who I was in Israel and he sent me a text. He didn't know I was there. And he's like, why is he always talking about the Raiders? Why isn't he talking about Saints? I get it. I understand it. Fresno Bee's his hometown paper. I don't think Derek did anything wrong. And I think he's just being Derek. He's being genuine. Hey, you know what? I kind of knew it was over when my wife cried. Okay, now guess what? Being a father is the most important thing and a husband in my life other than my faith. And so I can understand as a dad, now my family, when people are critical of me, they just laugh. They think it's funny. You guys know this. Matt Millen uh, is one of my best friends on the planet. And I'll never forget this. When Matt called me, he's general manager of the Lions. He went back to Pennsylvania to be with his family for Christmas. And the angel on the top of their Christmas tree had a Fire Millen sign. And he called me, told me that. I remember I'm the media member that broke that story. And it was hilarious. And Matt laughed. And his family, same way, didn't take it personal. And each family's different. And so my feeling is he isn't a Raiders quarterback. There's really not a lot to discuss here. Would I have made those comments? No. Do I believe they're 100% truthful? Yes. But at some point, I think Derek needs to just let it go. You've already told the people you didn't get my best last year. Now this, I think it's drama that Derek doesn't need around him. Let me go a step further. I don't think the Raiders need it around them. Uh, I have never seen a fan base as divided. And then when Derek was gone, the vitriol now is all Josh McDaniels. I don't get that. I don't understand it. And so I'm not saying that looking down on people. I'm literally fascinated by the amount of people that are Raiders fans and really appear to almost hate the organization. In fact, I'm going to be doing some interviews with fans coming up here shortly for a podcast about that dynamic. But I just think at some point, Derek's got to let it go. Raider fans got to let it go. And I understand he was being genuine with his hometown paper talking about it, but I don't want it to hurt him with Saints fans that feel like is this like the girl that breaks up and then goes to her next relationship and all she talks about is the old husband or old boyfriend? Just let it go. I think it needs to go. I'm just telling you, I'm tired of covering it. He's not here. I'm not a Derek hater. I'm not a Derek promoter. I was honest about the situation. I'm tired of covering it. Jimmy Garoppolo's here now. Brian Hoyer's here. Aiden O'Connell's here. And I don't think that there's anything in Derek's comments that should make you hate the Raiders. I know that he doesn't. And I don't think there's anything in Derek's comments that should make you laugh. I think it's sad. It's the other side. These people are human. And when, their families are going to cry. It's why most players will say to their families, please don't read the media and don't watch the media, which they do. I know lots of families and hear from them. And so, but I understand it. I understand it's a sore spot. Guess what? When things are said that bother my wife, they bother me. And I wouldn't expect Derek, with his character, to have not, when his wife cried, and she's just a precious person, that it didn't bug him. But I think it's best for everybody to just kind of move on and go in a different direction. So that's why I didn't do a lot of covering of it. I appreciate your question, but just going to move on and let this go. If it deals with a football issue, we'll talk about it. But to me, I don't think it was a slam. There is a element of this fan base. I've had to turn a couple of people in to law enforcement for things they wrote about me or said, or one person, doesn't matter. But there's always going to be a group of people in every fan base, in every grouping. I'll tell you a quick one. I was just in Palestine and Israel, and I was with a Palestinian man, great guy. And we were talking about how in Israel, 99% of the Palestinian Arab people and the Jewish people, they get along. They live in the same city. It isn't hatred. And we were sitting there. It was me and a Jewish man and an Arab man. And we were all sitting there eating dinner and getting along and laughing and joking. And actually, it was lunch, excuse me, and just joking. And every group has a percentage of people who are over the top. And you understand that and you accept it, but you can't judge everybody. Do I think there were a lot of Raider fans really disappointed with Derek Carr's performance? Yes. Do I think they had a right to be? Yes. Now listen to what I just said. Derek's performance was not good enough last year. A lot of people should be disappointed in that. When his comments came out that, you know what, they didn't get my best last year. That should have bothered Raider fans. But there are some that are just going to be still attack. Then there's going to be other people who say, look at, who send me emails. The Raiders are cursed. God's never going to let them. I mean, stop. Because of how they treated Derek. And I just think it's time to move on past all of this. If I was Derek's agent, I would suggest that to him. But I also know that Derek's very warm. And when people talk to him, he's going to be genuine from his heart. And I think it hurts him. I think it's probably best to let go. Okay, the next question that I got is about the Josh Jacobs incident. I came home and my email box was full of this. So I made some calls early this morning. I know it's early when this post, but still made some calls early this morning. I don't expect Josh to show up until the season's about to begin, maybe a little early, but unless there's a long-term deal, which I hope that there is. Let's leave it there. I would not. Well, read my question and answer article. You'll know the percentage chance of what I think a deal gets done. But I do expect Josh to play this year. Nothing's changed. I made 2 phone calls, and I stand by my previous reporting. And then the last one is, and I got this question from Brenda. Brenda is from St. Louis, Missouri, and Brenda says to me, Hondo, if Jimmy Garoppolo goes down, who do you think would start, Brian Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell? Brenda, that's a great question. And I would have to say to you, it depends on where in the year that it happened and where they were in the year. So, for example, let's say the Raiders are 5-2, or let's say they're 8-3, whatever, but they're clearly in a hunt and they're in the hunt. I think they would go to Brian Hoyer. If they are 2-5 or 3-8, whatever, and not in the hunt, and they think that Aiden O'Connell has come along far enough, I think they give the try to Aiden O'Connell. So again, I just think it depends on where the injury is and what the injury is. If it's before the season, then I would expect Brian Hoyer to be the starting quarterback. So there you go. Just a few of the questions, giving you a little bit of insight. Again, I'm just guys, send the questions about Derek Carr to other people. I'm not going to get into it. He's not the Raider quarterback anymore. I keep saying it. And so if you want to call me out for saying you said you wouldn't talk about it anymore, you did. I think that's fair. I deserve that criticism. But I had so many that I felt like I wanted to address it. So moving forward until he retires and it becomes a Raider issue, I'm just going to stay away from it unless it's an actual football deal. But there you go. I think there are people in every group who go to extremes. But I think most of Raider Nation was frustrated with Derek or very supportive of Derek. But I think the vast majority didn't go over the top, but there was some who certainly did. So I hope that addresses the issue. Thanks, everybody, for listening. It's good to be back. We're kicking our coverage into high gear, talking about training camp. We got a lot more podcasts coming this week and a lot more. So thanks for listening. God bless y'all. I appreciate you very much. I'm Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network. Thanks, everybody.